We are going to talk about TikTok, specifically this impending potential ban of TikTok. And before we dive in with our three fantastic conversation partners, I want to briefly talk about a brief timeline of this potential TikTok ban in, 2 minutes or less. How did we get to this point? So here's the basic timeline that I think you need to know. It started back in 2020 when Trump had a beef against TikTok for all sorts of reasons. That's a whole other conversation. And for a lot of people, that's when TikTok maybe got on their radar. Personally, whenever Trump is against something, I'm like, ooh, what is this thing? I want to check it out. So Trump versus TikTok started in 2020. 2021, Biden postpones the legal case against TikTok. So we kind of had a little bit of presidential shift and we had TikTok's favor shifting, it seemed. 2022, however, there were some security concerns about TikTok. A few months after that, TikTok was banned for government workers. March 23, there was the infamous 6-hour congressional hearing. You can still go watch clips of that, see the images of that. It's always fascinating to see elected officials who don't seem to know how the internet works talk to people who have built parts of the internet. 2024, this was the moment that led us to what's coming up in front of us. The ban or sell bill was passed by Congress and signed by Biden. The same Biden who just a couple years earlier postponed the legal case. This has a bit of a flip-flop going on, which we'll continue to see in the upcoming moments here. Right here, 2024, just moments ago from this recording, Trump says he has a quote, warm spot in his heart for TikTok. If you ever wondered if Trump had warm spots, he does apparently, one for TikTok, and he had all sorts of questions for the Supreme Court to put a stay on this hearing to postpone it until he's in office, which I don't think is going to happen. January 7th, just a couple days ago from this recording, Kevin Leary from Shark Tank says he might buy TikTok. And he's not the only one. Frank McCourt, founder of Project Liberty, has been building a consortium to purchase TikTok and re-architect the platform to put people in control of their digital identities and data. Sounds like a cool idea. It's called the People's Bid for TikTok. But we'll see if it's going to get ByteDance. The owner has to agree to sell it. So there's a little bit of a moving piece in there as well. January 10th, this is tomorrow as of this recording conversation. The Supreme Court is going to review the case. Okay. And then just 9 days after that, we get to the ban or sell deadline. We're not sure what's going to happen. We might lose this beloved platform. Now, a few things I've looked up when I've kind of looked into this. The law does not ban Americans from using TikTok, and it wouldn't wipe it off your phones, but it would ban app stores and internet service providers from hosting it. So TikTok might not immediately stop working for the 170 million Americans who are using this app, but it would mean that we might not be able to download it and wouldn't get updates, and it would eventually stop working. And my biggest concern is that all of this kind of just puts a sour taste on the public's experience of this platform that I think a lot of us watching this conversation have really come to love. So that's the quick and dirty how we got here. Now you see five fantastic faces. I'm counting myself as fantastic. Four of you. We are going to have a great conversation for
Funny
the
enough,
next.
I got distracted scrolling on TikTok and I was like, oh shoot, I gotta think of this.
I love it. I love it. You see in front of you four fantastic people. You just heard Reverend Bethany Peerbolt, Rev Bethany on TikTok, Sarah Tevis Towns, Disorganized Religion, Timoth Silva, Rev Timoth, and Reverend Joseph Yu, who is finding a private location, it seems, in a cold coffee shop in Texas. Coming from Texas, coming from New England for Timoth, coming from New Mexico for Sarah, coming from Denver for Bethany. I'm in Michigan. We are all over the map. So let's just dive in, and I want to hear from you, Sarah. I want to start with you because you and I have texted a bunch about this, and I know you have lots of videos you've made. Just give us the general, quick impression. How has TikTok impacted your ministry?
It's fundamentally changed it. It's brought a ton of people into the church. I use TikTok videos as sermon illustrations. It also created a really important network of support for me and other clergy during the pandemic. And so we actually built a progressive Christian movement with millions of followers. We changed the national conversation about Christianity, right? A bunch of us have appeared on CNN and other legacy media sources. We've fundamentally shifted the way people are talking about Christianity in the United States. And we've made friends around the world. One thing about TikTok is it is a global platform, especially the live stream. So when I live stream on TikTok versus Instagram, right? Like Instagram, it's all my followers that show up in a live stream, but TikTok, you have a global audience. It's a great tool for evangelism too, right? You meet people who are deconstructing, who are uncomfortable with the church, and they meet us and they think, oh, I do like Jesus, right? Like, let me learn more. I have become a Rolodex for the United Church of Christ and other progressive denominations around the United States. I brought, like, together, we've brought more people back into church as a result of TikTok than I think any other effort in a long time.
Yeah.
You know,
And
the
I would say
United
we
Church of
didn't
Christ
just bring
closed
more
its
people.
office of evangelism in the 70s. This has
Yeah.
become a new office of evangelism. We've really grown the church as a result.
And I would say we didn't just bring more people into the church, we brought the church to more people. We kind of flipped the shift and saying, you don't have to come to the building. We're gonna literally put it in your pockets. Bethany, I remember you kind of reframed how I saw TikTok when you talked about a TikTok video as like a modern day parable, giving people this like moment of faith reflection and meaning in their everyday life, which is what parables were. And obviously, I'm pretty sure, Bethany, TikTok has made an impact on your digital ministry since you like are doing all digital ministry now, largely because of TikTok. So share a bit from your end how TikTok's made an impact on what you're up to these days.
Yeah, I mean, I used it as a way to reach the youth that I was ministering to in COVID. And then more and more people, like, they were just like, oh, wait, what? Like, women can be pastors, you can say Black Lives Matter, like all that stuff. It was just like, wait, what? And yeah, now I am doing digital ministry full time, and doing this. So it changed how I look at myself as a leader. Like, the idea that I'm an evangelist is something I had to get used to. I was like, shoot, what am I doing? Someone asked me, like, what do you want out of this? I was like, I just want people to know that God loves them and that the gospel is a really great way to frame your life. And people are like, oh, you're an evangelist. And I was like, you, but yes, I guess I am now. Um, I think this platform and is and especially the way this algorithm works, like there's other platforms, right? But the way this algorithm, in its beautiful days, I think it's a little bit watered down, but it is a way. It looks at people not just as like one thing, but that they're multifaceted. So in other platforms, I get put into like Christian area, and then but I'm not necessarily just Christian. Like, there's also queer content and like these other things. And something about the TikTok algorithm is able to see somebody as not just one thing.
Mm,
And that has been, I think, the power of it, to be like, oh, you
yeah.
can be multiple things.
Yeah. Whew. I think that is right on. That is right on. Joseph, what about you? You're a priest in Texas. You've written a book. Is TikTok just, a way to, reach the kids and market your book? Is that all it's been for you? I say that because I know that's not the answer.
Well, I can't. So we are a church plant, and I can't. There's nothing quantifiable that I can report to the diocesan office about my connections on social media. But the thing that has really helped me is that it's been an outlet for creativity,
Mm,
where I'm more able to express what I want to talk about. Like, if I can't include the story in a sermon, I have an outlet to do that. And then while I had, for the first time in my career, I have to use the lectionary because I wasn't an Episcopalian before, but as an Episcopalian, I got used to the lectionary. And then when I want to, you have this assigned work, but I want to do something that's not assigned. So then it's, for me, it has served as a creative outlet that I am in charge of, that I'm in control of, that I can decide what to do. And thankfully, I have been able to connect with people whom I normally would never connect with on a regular basis. But institutionally, I can't count that, but that doesn't matter.
I love it. I love it. No, I think that creative outlet is huge. I mean, every human needs that. Every person needs it. Every pastor definitely needs it. It's easy to get, feel like we're stuck in certain boxes or molds, and we're not. You can break those as well, but there's sometimes a lot of institutional resistance, when it's just this silly little dance app, which it's so much more than silly and so much more than dancing. Although I think I've seen all of you do some dances on TikTok. It allows for you to just explore and express creativity creative ideas in such needed ways. And then, like Sarah, you're saying, those things cross over into the traditional spaces of church life and pulpits and everything. All right, I'm going to stop. Timothy, I want to hear from you. TikTok, its impact, you, ministry, all these things. I know you could talk for 30 minutes alone on this.
Well, no, it's funny. I want to go back. So I landed on TikTok because yes, Trump wanted to get rid of it. So what I learned very early on, and what has been just at the heart of much of what I've done with the platform is, and I think piggybacking on some of what Bethany shared too, is that there's a vast number of people out there who don't realize or haven't had in front of them folks like us who say you are loved, you are worthy, you are valid, and um, there's such a hunger for that, and whether it's the algorithm bringing them together or whether they're showing up in live sessions on TikTok, what we've all been able to do then is cultivate community on there, and in many ways cultivate church
Yeah.
on there. And so it started off as a funny little dance app for me, but then once I started meeting people and they said, hey, wait, you're openly queer and you're ordained and that's okay, and people, and recognizing that so many of those folks had been hurt by the institutions, so many of them still love Jesus, as you said, but they will never want to walk into a brick and mortar church again. And so they found a space where they were able to continue to build their faith, to grow in relationship, to connect with others globally, um, uh, as a part of this Jesus movement thing.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and like I said, yeah, it's right there on your phone, it's with you everywhere, it's accessible. And then it grew beyond that, because I think many of us probably have experienced that there's the community you build on TikTok, but then it flows over into our lives in other ways. So there's other connections, there's folks coming into our churches, there's folks live streaming with our churches, there's folks who are texting me and sharing prayer concerns. Like, I mean, there's all of these beautiful ways that have evolved out of just connecting with someone because they didn't realize that the church was okay with who they are, or
Yeah.
that there was a church that was okay with who they are.
Ooh, absolutely, absolutely. And that community piece is so true. It's so much more than just a consumption entertainment app. It truly has the ability, those multifaceted ways of algorithmizing yourself. Is that a word? It lets you connect with those communities in real and meaningful ways. I mean, I know the four of you because of TikTok. That's my first encounter with you and so many people who are watching this. And yeah, and like Bethany said, there's other parts of me. I know a whole running community just through TikTok. It's called Run Talk, and it might be the best side of TikTok. Just saying. There's all this stuff out there. But here we are, January 9th, as of this recording, 10 days away from potentially TikTok turning into an obsolete entity on our devices. So let's fast forward to that reality for a second. TikTok is banned. That happens. And maybe it'll come back in some form. Who knows? Whatever. It's going to be a dent that we can never recover from fully. So in a world where TikTok doesn't exist, what would you recommend to a pastor or a leader who's interested in this way of creating stuff and sharing it online and cultivating community, but we live then in that world where TikTok is not an option? I'm not going to make one of you jump in, but I'll just let you. Sarah, Gore, please. Yes, dive right in.
I've been playing on Instagram Reels. I even went live yesterday. The problem with Reels is that the live streams only go to your followers. Unlike TikTok, where you can travel all around the world and scroll
Yeah.
through live streams, and you can go fishing with somebody in the Philippines and then go to a Greek Orthodox church and then, go to Palm Sunday in Argentina, right? You can't do that on Reels. And so that is going to be a huge loss. The thing that's nice about Instagram, if I'm going to say anything is nice about Instagram, is that it does connect people locally. So if you're trying to build community locally, it's been a great tool for organizing. So I will say that. YouTube is hard to break into. That's my only challenge.
Yeah.
If you don't have really high production quality, the kind that Jim Keat has, for example, it's really tough to build community because it's just so big.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where you go. Other people are using Facebook. I think Instagram may have the best potential just because it's already being used by local organizers and by local businesses to connect people already, at least
Yeah,
on a
that's a good
local
word.
level. But in terms of the global reach, it falls short for sure.
That's what's
The Meta
frustrating
platform.
because Google, I mean, YouTube is great, but it's so huge and it's so
Yeah.
massive and it's hard. There's a lot going on. Instagram, yeah, it might be the best next fallback, but TikTok had so much going right for it. It was growing and emerging simultaneous. So it wasn't like oversaturated as, you know, a lot of this was beginning. And it's one of those right time, right place, you know, serendipitous moments. And now we're trying to jump ship to a thing that's already another entity. And we all have opinions on Zuckerberg and his most recent thoughts on fact checking and why it's irrelevant. And okay. Others, Timoth, Bethany, Joseph, what would you say?
I
Someone's
will
like, well,
say,
where do I
like,
go?
this moment, I'm really hoping that something like develops, and it could be an Instagram, you know, or even Instagram itself does kind of fill that void. Everyone kind of goes there, but I think it's really important for us to pay attention to where people are kind of going and what we start hearing about, because it's very much like when TikTok started growing. You have to be like, what is this thing? Let me go look at it, let me get on and like figure out. And I think that's going to happen again. So it kind of could be an opportunity for people who are like, oh, I didn't jump on it last time. This might be the time again, another moment where people are scrambling and I don't know what to do. And so we could find that that happens again, and then like, okay, well, whatever platform ends up being the one that takes the void, like, let's just be there, figure it out.
Yeah.
Discord. That is a place you can build real community. I've seen that with The Word in Black and Red, which is a phenomenal leftist Bible podcast, The Word in Black and Red. Check it out. That community is popping off nonstop. I can't turn Discord notifications on because it just goes and goes and goes. You can build real online community, more like a brick and mortar church on Discord. That has real potential.
And that's exactly
Timoth,
what Rev
Joseph,
Bethany is
go ahead.
doing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're building that. You and Nate
Yeah,
and others are, yeah.
we've got a Discord. Yeah. I mean, you have to find people, right? So like my content is like the lifeline. Like, okay, we're over here, and then people want to go deeper. Yeah, we can go into the Discord. But yeah, and Discord, I think like Twitch, I know some places like going live, like I've been thinking about like, okay, do I go live on Twitch, because I know that's a place where people do look for this kind of stuff. Like, where are people, you know, you go to the library to look for certain things, where are people going to look for community and a different theological view? Like, how do I get there? And that's kind
Yeah.
of what I'm going to be paying attention to, is like, where are people going?
Yeah.
Joseph,
And that's so well, I just say piggybacking on what Sarah shared in the chat, that Discord is great at cultivating community or sustaining community that's already pre-existing. And that's like we're building a Brave Space Discord to try to pull folks from the community from TikTok as well. I want to go back, Jim, to your question of like, what would you say to another pastor, you know, of like what do you suggest? And as I've thought about it and trying to try to invite followers to, you know, join me somewhere else, we can keep the community going. I used to say, like, find a platform that works well for you and that you can invest in and learn well and whatnot. And right now I'm like, cast the net. Like, you know, try to sort of put some stuff out in a variety of places to see where people are, and you know what kind of response you're getting, and then maybe learn more about that one particular place that seems to be the most fruitful for you. But there's so many options right now that it's hard to say I'm just going to put all of my eggs in the Instagram basket, and then if that doesn't work, then I get to sort of shift over. So I've cast a net and just trying to see where I can connect with folks again the most. So.
Yeah, that's good advice. Within capacity we all have, don't be overwhelmed by all the things, but you know, Blue Sky is worth, you know, giving at least a couple glances at. Substack is not at all new, but it seems like it's getting another resurgence right now. And many other Discord we've talked about here. There's lots of spaces and places that you can give some energy and attention. That's good. That's good. Joseph, what about down in your corner? You say you're talking to another, you know, church plant. They're like, okay, I need to do some innovative things. What should I be leaning into? What would you recommend if TikTok is off the table?
I mean, Instagram is still like I said, church plant. Instagram would be more helpful because you're connecting with local people. But I just assume, you know, you knock one down, three more will come up, and something else would take its place. But the snarky side of me is saying, when the church discovers that new platform, everyone would be pretty much on the way out to the next one, because we're always 4, 5, 6, 10 steps behind Which also, I think one of the things I tell churches, specifically like mainline denominational churches, I don't know what it is about us mainliners, but anything that comes from out of our churches is more corny than relevant. I mean, I'm speaking from as a previous Methodist and as an Episcopalian. Anything that comes from the official or like the churches, it's just really like I think we've forgotten how to talk to people who don't go to church, and it's very
Yeah.
evident. There's that famous meme where Steve Buscemi, on a skateboard and says, "How are you doing, fellow kids?" That's exactly what I feel like when someone from our diocese or but I think church planters in general are a different breed of clergy because they're trying to find a different way to operate within the institution. So they're always a little bit more. I know I'm generalizing, but they're a little bit more desperate. Therefore, they have to be a little more creative. I think the mass. I don't know if anything will. It'll take time to have the mass reach that TikTok has, but locally, like with Discord and Instagram, we're still able to make connections with people who normally we won't be able to make connections with. I think that one of the biggest, easiest tools or the biggest benefits of like social media is the ability to connect with someone on or massively connect with people on it, because like I'm just one person. I'm at this coffee shop. I could meet 3 people a day, and that would be it. And that would be a good day. But with like TikTok or Instagram or anything like that, like you make a connection. Some people will be moved by what you said or posted, and then they'll reach out to you in DMs or email you, and then you start connection. And then I've met so many people through that way. And again, I wish I could find a way to count them so that my bosses get off my back. But I know that numbers are secondary, and the fact that we make real connections and provide, as people said, provide a different way to look at Christianity than what's coming from nationalists and the white evangelicals. I think that's a really powerful tool that we continue to research and find ways to provide an alternative way. That there's more ways to approach Christ, and the nationalists do not have a monopoly on that.
Yeah. Amen to all of that. And I think you've got a lot of good points of mainline church. We're so used to talking to church people and not people, which is most people. And I think that's one of the benefits of a platform like TikTok. The church has definitely crept their way in, but I think especially back when a lot of us were first dipping our toe in, it was just people who were interested in reimagining faith and spirituality. And wait, you can be queer and be a Christian, and wait, you can be a woman and be a preacher, and paradigms were shifting, and it was challenging assumptions. And then, the church began swimming in those waters. Not entirely. My life at Riverside, TikTok is still where I get the most freedom because there's the fewest amount of congregant eyes browsing around that space, which is kind of nice. Okay, finally, in these last moments, this is the blitz of a conversation. I know. How are you feeling just in this potential / impending TikTok ban? Give us I'm going to force you to be brief. Give us, 90 seconds ish. Sarah, I want to swing to you first. I know you've been posting about this and I've seen you processing, and I just think you have some great ways of framing this. So how are you holding and feeling this reality?
It's a gut punch. That's the best I could say. It's been home, it's been community, it's been a way that we've grown this progressive Christian movement. If it goes away, and what's rough, I mean, you showed that timeline. We've had to have this conversation every year since 2020.
Yeah.
And so part of me is just numb and done having the conversation, but part of me, it's like, well, it might finally go through this time. It just hurts. I think that's the bottom line. It hurts. We've organized offline. The band's not gonna disband. But yeah, it hurts. That's the bottom line.
I hear you. Bethany, what about you? TikTok really was a springboard for so many spaces you've now made home. How are you feeling with this potential reality?
It feels like I've been ministering in a forest that is about to get bulldozed, and the problems are still going to exist. The people that are hurt still exist. And the fear that I'm not going to be able to reach them the way that I have been and provide that for them is just it's terrifying, really. I know that this worked. And I don't know if I'm going to make it work in another way. I'm being as optimistic as I can that it will work in another platform if I need to. Like, we'll figure this out. But it's really scary. I know that there's I mean, like, one of the reasons I started this is because someone came into my life because they were going to end their life. And it's like, that will still happen.
Yeah.
Will they be able to find me in those moments again? So I'm a lot of denial still. Like, I'm still like, they can't, they'll push it back, someone will buy, like, it'll have something, but that's really just the fear trying to like help me, process.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you there. Timothy, how about you? How are you feeling? How are you holding this moment reality?
It's not going to happen. No. I think Sarah's, I mean, gut punch number one, yes. What it also feels like right now is the communities that we've cultivated. We're in this, I don't know, it's like a giant bus accident, and we're trying to find each other afterwards to make sure everybody's still okay. And I think there's just gonna be a lot of that, like hunting for folks, and um, especially as Bethany lifts up, like there's so many people who need that community or those variety of communities, um, to stay healthy. And there's such a deep fear and a grief, that's embodying me right now,
Yeah.
for those folks especially.
And Joseph, coming your way, how are you feeling with this reality that's around the corner, it seems?
Yeah, I honestly don't know if it's going to happen now that Trump is all excited for it because it helped him get some votes instead of canceling rallies. But and I say this to not minimize anything that everyone said because I do feel disappointed and sad and kind of looking for what's next. But we're all Christians, and you can't have a resurrection without a death. So while this might be put to death, I'm certain that other platforms will come out where people creative clergy. I'm getting older, so I might not be part of that new group, but there be other ways to connect. And I come back to the thing that Jesus said. If even the rocks will shout out for in God's name. So like, I'm waiting with a bated breath, just like kind of anxious to see how to move forward, but we'll find a way.
Yeah.
As Jeff Goldblum or Jeff, whatever his character's name is in Jurassic Park, life
Finds a way. Anytime you can bring a Jeff Goldblum character into a conversation, I think that's a good place to land. Friends, we have done it. 30 good minutes talking about TikTok. There is much more we could say. Follow these fantastic people on TikTok and look them up on Instagram and YouTube and all the places. If you haven't already, check out what's going on in the world. If it's after January 10th, you know how that Supreme Court hearing went. That's happening January 10th. I believe 10 a.m. Eastern time is when it starts. It might be brief is what I've heard. And then January 19th, if it's after January 18th, leave a comment on this video. Let us know if TikTok still exists because you're watching this in the future. The rest of us will just keep holding our breath. Thanks so much for this. 4 of you, you're fantastic. Huge round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And everyone who's watching the recording or the live video, you're the best. Keep being amazing. Don't give up even if a platform goes away. We still need hope, love, and justice in the world more than ever. All right. See you on the next one. Bye, everyone.